Hello, everybody. It is Dr. Z here. We are in the French Revolution, and this is video number 3. So, the last video ended with the Women's March. As a result of that march, okay, the National Assembly and the King leave Versailles and they go to Paris. And that means that the revolution itself is sort of moved to Paris. Versailles no longer is sort of the epicenter of all the action. The National Assembly abolishes the nobility, right? So here we are, classes are done, right? Because we remember that first principle that all men are born free and equal in rights of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. The king is sort of strong-armed into upholding the Constitution. So he swears to do that, and France is a constitutional monarchy at this point, and the first constitution gets passed. This National Assembly, all right, wants to have a number of reforms, okay? And these are all the reforms that they do. And these are very much inspired by the Enlightenment. And one of the big questions of the French Revolution is, did the Enlightenment cause the French Revolution? Because we see lots of enlightened ideas through the French Revolution. So guilds are abolished, all right? France is divided into 83 departments, which helps with the bureaucratic sort of running of the nation. Internal customs fees are abolished. Religious freedom is given to Protestants and Jews. The Catholic Church's property is nationalized and sold to finance French armies, revolutionary armies. We'll talk about that in a moment. And monasteries are abolished. These are Catholic monasteries, right? So the Jesuits can no longer be teaching and, about Catholicism and things like that. And of course, what's called the Civil Constitution of the Clergy is established. This is signed, making a national church of France. And priests then have to be elected by voters. And the Civil Constitution of the Clergy is really, you can see this as sort of an end result of the Protestant Reformation. It's an end result of the French National Wars of Religion. It's an end result of French absolutism. And this is a commemorative plate from 1790 showing a curate wearing the Constitution. So a French, clergy member, right, wearing the Constitution. The Catholic Church very much opposed the French Revolution, and this is sort of punishment to the church for that. The clergy becomes employees of the state. They're paid by the state, right? They have to be voted in by people. And they also have to take an oath of loyalty to the nation, not to the Catholic Church, but to the French nation. And so this is really going to be a thorn in the side of the relationship between France and the Catholic Church. In this section of the revolution, the royal family tries to escape from Paris. So they left Versailles for Paris to the Tuileries Palace, and then things got too hot in Paris, and they said, you know what, let's try to leave France in general. So Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, their children, they dress up and they, as peasants actually, they get into a very modest looking carriage and they try to escape, but they are captured. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide. European monarchs issue the Declaration of Pillnitz, saying that they will interfere to reinstate Louis XVI if he is deposed. The National Assembly then transitions and becomes what's called the Legislative Assembly, and is staffed by a very young, not so experienced, rather radical thinkers on the left. They are mostly what are called Jacobins. France is going to engage in a war against Austria, and the revolutionary crowd starts to feel that the king and queen are treasonous, and they're going to attack them in their palace, and the king is going to be imprisoned. So that's a little preview of things to come. Let's talk about that stuff in depth here. So the royal family, as I said, left, tried to escape Paris and tried to escape France. And they got into a carriage. They dressed themselves modestly, kind of as commoners, as you can see in this picture here. Here is Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI and their children. They were on the road and they were near the city of Varennes, and they hit a revolutionary checkpoint where the Revolutionary Army stopped their carriage. And because Louis XVI's face had been on a number of coins, he was recognized by the Revolutionary Guards there. And so here they took them into this, you know, the traffic stops little house. And they said, hey, you guys are now under arrest. You were trying to flee the country. You're treasonous. And they are told that they have to go back then to Paris. So after the royal family flees, they're captured at Varennes and then they're returned to Paris. They are essentially at this point prisoners of the revolution. The revolutionaries no longer trust Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. And the monarchs of Europe react to this and say, look, we will help reinstate Louis XVI if he is deposed. Because people in the revolutionaries don't trust the king and queen, the revolutionary crowd saw them as committing treason against the revolution. And we have to remember, Marie Antoinette came from Austria. She's a Habsburg. She's not a Bourbon. And France was engaged in a war against Austria. So her trying to escape to Austria is the main reason for treason. The royal family flees their palace with the attack on the Tuileries Palace. They go to the Legislative Assembly and they say, hey, can you guys help us? And instead of helping them, the Legislative Assembly suspends the king from all of his functions, put them both into prison, and they called for a constitutional assembly to be elected by universal male suffrage. So France goes very quickly from a constitutional monarchy to what is looking a lot more like a republic. Here we have Marie Antoinette in the Tuileries Palace facing all of the people who have a lot of the women, and you can see this woman in particular with her red revolutionary cap on. These are revolutionary women. They're wearing the red bandanas, red caps of the revolution, and they're trying to tell Marie Antoinette, you know, you're a traitor. You need to get on the side of the revolutionaries. And you can probably guess what's going to come next in our next video. It's the guillotine. All right, stay tuned.